Hare Krishna. So thank you all for coming again. We're going to continue with learning our verses. We'll do a little review of whatever Bhagavad Gita verses we've learned so far. And then we are going to learn about Lord Buddha, which is the 9th incarnation of Lord Krishna out of the 10 main incarnations, okay? So if you don't have your camera, if you're able to, please do turn it on. And we're going to go through first with our, we're going to start with our opening prayers, okay? All right, here we go. Okay, and you can say this with me, and you can unmute as well if you like. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. Okay. So now we're going to review the verses that we've learned so far, okay? So if you all can please unmute yourself, we're going to recite them together, the verse and the translation. But we'll start with the verse, the Sanskrit, okay? Please unmute and let's start. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshire kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva hemakurvata sanjaya. Okay. In translation together, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? All right, can I have one volunteer to share with us in one sentence what is happening in this verse? I see Dwani. I see your hand raised. Would you like to share with us? Just a quick summary.
Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya that what shall we do after pilgrimaging at Kurukshetra?
Okay, yeah, so Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, what did his sons and the sons of Pandu do on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? They were all ready to fight. They were assembled at Kurukshetra, and they were preparing to fight this huge Kurukshetra war. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, what did they do? Oh, and this is a picture of Dhritarashtra here, the king, asking Sanjaya. Okay, next verse. Again, let's say this all together, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava Prichami tvam dharma samudacheta Yachreyasya nishchitam bruhit me Ishyasteham shadiman tvam prapannam. Wonderful. Translation together. Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. All right, what is happening in this verse? Do I have a volunteer? You can just say it in a quick one-liner. Let's see if there's anyone who has not shared yet. Dhruv, okay, go ahead.
So in this picture, Arjuna asks Krishna for help. As in what he should do in the war of Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
Should he fight or should he not fight?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he was confused. And he's asking Krishna, what should I do? He didn't want to fight anymore. He was very disturbed. So he was asking Krishna, please tell me what to do. Excellent. All right, next verse here. All together again. 1, 2, 3. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Ashosyam Anvashocastvam Pratyavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti Pandita. And the translation? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. All right, what is happening in this verse? Do I have another volunteer? Let's first see if there's anyone who has not shared yet. If you don't have your camera on, you can use that hand-raising function if you'd like. Let's see if I'm not missing anybody. Okay. Let's see, is there anyone who has not shared yet that would like to try? What do you remember from this verse? Satya, would you like to try? A quick summary of this verse.
So, are you talking about the picture or the verse?
Yeah, you can tell me about the verse or the picture. The picture is related to the verse.
In the picture, there's like a dead guy, and there's like a guy like crying because of him. There's a guy who doesn't have a leg, and then there's a guy who's wise who's not lamenting.
Yeah. So there are different people in this picture who are going through different distressing situations, tough situations. And then you see here, there's also the learned person, right? Who's not lamenting. So he's not really feeling sad for what is going on. He's able to just continue. Whereas these other people here, they are feeling very distressed for what is happening. There's situations. Okay, so Krishna is saying that when you're learned, when you're wise, then you learn to not feel so, what is the exact word he uses here? Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong, here we go. Yeah, so someone who's learned, they're able to see beyond these dualities of life, the happiness and distress, and they don't lament too much about them. All right, let's go to the next verse, and again, please unmute. 1, 2, 3, all together. Nadeva Vanjagunasam Natvam Nene Janadipam Sarvana Bhavishyamaham Sarve Vayam Ataparam. Translation: never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. All right. Any one-liners? Anyone? A quick synopsis of what this verse is about. Ramaya?
So I don't get it.
Okay, that's okay. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that there was never a time where any of us did not exist. So there was never a time where Krishna did not exist, nor Arjuna, nor all the kings. And same with us. There was never a time where we did not exist. We've always existed in the form of a soul. We are a soul. We're eternal. Okay? So that's essentially what Krishna is telling Arjuna here. That we always existed, but we've gone through different changes of bodies and lives. Okay. Again, all together. 1, 2, 3. Kaumaram yauvanam jara tadevantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. Translation: as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. All right. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that the soul in the body changes from boyhood to youth to old age. And then once that body is no longer able to be used, that soul goes into a new body. Okay, so that's what we call death, is when the soul goes from one body to the next. Okay, and he's saying that the sober person is not bewildered. They're not too, this doesn't bother them so much because they understand that the soul is eternal and the soul just goes from one body to another. And like this picture right here, you see how the soul stays the same, but he goes through a change of different bodies. So even within one life, we experience that our bodies change, right? We don't look the same as how we did when we were young. And then at the end of this life, then we go into a new body. All right. Next verse, all together. 1, 2, 3. Matra sparshastitam priya shitoshna sukha dukkha agama parino nityas Bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. All right, does anyone have a quick overview of this verse for us? Dhruv, I see your hand up. Let me see if there's anyone else who has not shared yet, okay? Okay, I do see Ramaya's brother. What is your name?
Ayushman.
Ayushman. Okay, go ahead.
I feel like what is trying to say in the translation?
Yeah. What's the verse about?
It's like summer, you're like born, and then after all the seasons you go, and I mean fall you're still alive, and then winter you go a little bit too old, and like in summer the plants start to grow, and then fall it's like starting a process of like the trees are getting older and older, and then in winter all the leaves have fallen, you got like too old and then you die.
Yeah.
But then in spring you go born again. So it's like the same thing. It's like he's trying to describe the our lives like in the 4 seasons.
Yeah. So Krishna is explaining here how just as the seasons of the weather, right? They change. In the summer it's hot, the winter it's cold, like you said. The summer, we have plants that are growing. In the spring they start to grow. In the fall they start to lose their leaves, right? In the winter all the plants enter into hibernation. They're not producing anything, right? So there's so many different changes in the seasons. So in the same way, happiness and distress, happiness and sadness in this world, they change. They go in waves like this. At one point, things are going well, we're happy, and at another point, things may be difficult and we're sad. And we see that all around the world with everyone. So Krishna is giving an example. He's connecting that to just as how we see the seasons, right? They go in cycles. Spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And it keeps going like that. So similarly, happiness and distress, it's just a cycle in this world. As you get happy and then you feel sad. You feel happy, you feel sad. It's a constant cycle in this world. And that perception arises from our senses. So our senses see things, so our senses make us feel either happy or sad, and just as how we also perceive the seasons. So Krishna is showing us how things are changing all the time in the world, okay? Including happy situations and sad situations. And one who has learned to tolerate them is not going to be bothered by that. All right, let's go to the next. Oh, here's a picture as well. So right here we see some children. Some are happy and some are sad. And here Krishna is connecting that to how the seasons change, like I just mentioned. All right, next verse. Again, all together. 1, 2, 3. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyam ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Okay, in translation. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. All right, so here Krishna is explaining to Arjuna more about the soul. The soul never takes birth, never dies, always existing. And the soul doesn't die when the body dies. Okay, the soul just goes into a new body. So these are characteristics of the soul here. All right, next verse. 1, 2, 3, all together. Vasanti jirnani yatha vihaya navani gridhnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments altogether, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. All right. So just as how we change our clothes, right? At the end of the day, our clothes are dirty. We put them for wash, and we put on new clothes in the next day. So the same way, the soul, us as a soul in the body, we're constantly accepting new material bodies and giving up the old ones. And that's the process of birth and death. Okay. And here's another picture to show that. All right, next verse here. All together. 1, 2, 3. Jatasya hiro mritasya cha asmad apariharyete natvam shochitumarhasi. And translation altogether. One who has taken his birth sure to die. After death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Excellent. All right. So here again, Krishna is saying, in this world, if you're born, you will have to die. Your death is as sure as, or birth, for one who is born, death is certain, basically. So Krishna is just telling Arjuna that don't lament. You know, this is part of a life in this world. That if you're born, you're going to have to die. So in the same way, whoever's in this war, you know, some of them will have to die, and it's just part of a life in the material world. Oh, hang on 1 second. There was okay. All right, let's go to the next one, and I think this is, yeah, okay. This verse, let's say it all together. 1, 2, 3. Neha pikramana shosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam bhavasya dharmasya rayate mahato bhayat. Translation: in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Okay. And this one, I think 2 weeks ago, you learned about this and how any any service that you perform to Krishna that doesn't get lost. Just like how you have a cookie jar, as you eat the cookies, the cookies go down, down, down until you have no more cookies, right? But when you serve Krishna, when you do devotional service, that will never be lost. Okay, it'll stay as a credit for you. And when you do service again, when you do something for Krishna's pleasure, it'll just keep increasing. It'll never diminish. Okay. And yeah, and serving Krishna will also protect you from any kind of fear. Okay. Yes. Does anyone have anything that they remember from this verse that they want to say in one sentence? No? Okay, let's move on to the next verse then. All together? 1, 2, 3. Excellent job. Translation? You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. All right, wonderful. This was the last one you learned. So thank you all for trying, even though it's a new one. Okay, and here, does anyone remember anything from last week about this verse? I'll take one volunteer, and you can just say one sentence about this verse that you remember. Let's see, anyone can raise your hand. No? Okay, well, here Krishna is telling Arjuna that we're not in control of the results of our actions, right? Or like when we make an effort to do something, we're not in control of what the outcome is going to be, but we are in control of how much effort we put in towards that. So in terms of your duty, you can choose how much effort you want to put towards it. Like for now, all of you are going to school, right? So one of your biggest duties is to study, to do well in school, right? So you have control over how much effort you want to put in your studies and how well you want to do. But the outcome is not always in your hands, right? Like if you're taking a test, you might have studied the best you can, but sometimes within the test, you might forget something, right? So that's not in your control. But what is in your control is to do your best. So Krishna is saying here to Arjuna that basically you just do your best. You do the best effort you can in your duty. And in this case, Arjuna's duty was to fight the war. So Krishna was saying, do the best you can, but don't be too attached to what the outcome is going to be, because that's not in your control. But you can control how much effort you are going to put into your duty. Just like how I think the example that you heard last week was about playing soccer, right? So you have as much control into how much effort you put towards practicing, towards building up your skills, right? But in a game, you don't always have control over whether you're going to win or lose, right? Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. So that's not in your control, but what is in your control is how much effort you're going to put into being the best you can, okay? So same thing here with any duties that you have, like studying, or even if you're doing some service for Krishna, you're in control of how much effort you want to put into it. And you can always put as much effort to the best of your ability. Okay, and then Krishna will always take care of the results. Okay, now let's go to today's verse. So we're going to try and do line by line. Okay, so I'll say one line and then you can say the line after me. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so first listen to me, and then I'll tell you when you can repeat, okay? Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Okay, now you try. Excellent. Okay, we'll do it one more time. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Your turn. Okay. All together. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Again. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. One more time. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. All right. Okay. Now listen to me. Phalam yaktva manishina. This PH here is going to sound like, okay, like an F. Okay, let's try it together. We're going to say it 3 times all together now, okay? Phalam yaktva manishina. Phalam yaktva manishina. Phalam yaktva manishina. Okay, good. Okay. All right, now I'll say the next line here. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Now your turn. Bandha vinirmukta. Okay, let's say it all together 3 times, okay? All right, let's go. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Good. All right, listen now to me. Padam gacchantyanamaya. Now your turn. Padam gacchantyanamaya. Okay. Right here we have a Y at the end of this word. What you're going to do is you're going to just attach it to this word right here. Okay, so it's going to sound like gacchant yanamayam. Okay, so you're kind of combining the 2 words. All right, let's say this line 3 times all together. Okay, ready? Padam gacchant yanamayam. Padam gacchant yanamayam. Padam gacchantyanamaya. Okay, wonderful job trying. Now we're going to go through the lines again. We're going to say them 2 times, okay? And how are you feeling? Should we combine 2 lines or should we just go 1 line by 1 line?
Combine 2 lines.
Okay, Dwani says combine 2 lines. Does everyone else feel okay with that?
No.
No? Okay, let's do 1 line by 1 line for now, okay? And maybe at the end we can try combining. All right, 2 times for each line, okay? All together. Ready? Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Next line. Phalam tyaktva manishina. Phalam tyaktva manishina. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Janma bandha vinirmukta. Padam gacchantyanamaya. Padam gacchantyanamaya. All right. Excellent. Wonderful job trying, everyone. All right, do we have any volunteers for saying the Sanskrit before we move on to the translation? Okay, Dhruv and Dwani.
Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishna janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantyanamyam.
Yay, good job. Excellent. Do we have any other volunteers? Ramaya, go ahead.
Karam Javata Bhaktahi Param Tasmana Isha Jaram Bhakti Vinamukta Param Gachaya Namayam.
Excellent. Thank you for trying. Okay, any other volunteers? You can raise your hand if you would like to. Any other volunteers for the Sanskrit? No? Okay. Well, let's go to let's say the word for word. Karmajam, due to fruitive activities. You can say it with me, okay? Buddhi yukta, being engaged in devotional service. He, certainly. Phalam, results. Yaktva, giving up. Manishina, great sages or devotees. Janma bandha, from the bondage of birth and death. Vinirmukta, liberated. Padam, position. Gachanti, they reach. Anamayam, without miseries. All right, let's say the translation together. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. All right. Do we have any volunteers for saying the translation? Okay, Ansh, go ahead.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all misery by going back to Godhead.
Excellent, Ansh. Thank you. Nitya, go ahead. Nitya?
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain in the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's see if there's anyone else, any other friends who have not said anything yet. Okay. Dhruv and Dwani, go ahead.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
Thank you. Very nice. Okay, we'll take one more. Ramaya, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
By thus engaging the devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and
Attain. Good.
the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for saying the shloka and the translation. Okay, so I'm going to quickly tell you what Krishna is saying here. So remember, we were talking about how Krishna is telling Arjuna in the other verses that birth and death is just like, okay, so happiness and distress is a cycle in this world, right? We experience happiness, we experience distress. or sadness. So in the same thing, and in the same way, if you're born in this world, you'll have to die. That's part of this cycle in this world. The soul never dies, right? We are the soul, we never die, but we transition from one body to another, one body to another. And that's the cycle that Krishna is talking about here. The cycle of birth and death is the soul transitioning from one body to another, one body to another. So many lifetimes, right? So this is the cycle of birth and death in the material world. So we're in the material world right now, and we're experiencing these cycles of birth and death. But engaging in devotional service means doing service for Krishna, doing something for Krishna, right? By doing devotional service, we can become free from this cycle of birth and death, and we can go back to Godhead, which is the spiritual world. And over there, we don't have to go through that cycle of birth and death. There, we can live eternally, okay? But in the material world, our soul is eternal, but we have to go through different lives and different bodies. And we enter a new body, and that's birth, and we exit the body, and that's death. But by engaging in devotional service to Krishna, we can become free from that cycle, and we can go back to Godhead. Okay? So that's essentially what Krishna is telling Arjuna here. He's telling him how we can get out of this cycle of birth and death, and how we can go back to Godhead and be with Krishna eternally and happily. And we don't have to go through happiness, sadness, birth and death. We can be eternally, happily serving Krishna. And we can start doing that already in this world by doing little services, little acts of service to Krishna. Okay? So that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna in this verse. And let me share my screen now so we're going to also talk about a story about Lord Buddha, which is the 9th incarnation of Krishna out of the 10 incarnations. Give me 1 second here. All right, what can you see on my screen? One of you, if you can share with me.
There's Lord Buddha, and then there's planets around him.
Okay,
and at the bottom
excellent.
it says Buddha.
Okay, thank you, Ansh. Yes. Okay, so today we're going to hear the story of Buddha, Lord Buddha, okay? This is the 9th incarnation of Lord Krishna out of the 10 main incarnations. Krishna has many incarnations, but we're focusing on the 10 main ones. So Buddha is the 9th one, and Lord Buddha appeared about 2,000 years ago in a kingdom in northern India. Okay, so 2,000 years ago is not that long ago. So he was here on this planet not too long ago, just 2,000 years ago. And he appeared in a kingdom in North India to a king. And he was named Siddhartha when he was born. Let me see what the next picture is here. Oh, okay.
All right.
Here, let's go over the story and then we'll come back to this one right here, okay? This verse about him. Let me skip over to this right here. Okay, so this is Siddhartha. So Lord Buddha, when he was born, his parents gave him the name Siddhartha, okay? And he lived in a kingdom in northern India. And his parents, they wanted to make sure that he didn't experience any suffering in his life, okay? Just like how we've been learning in Bhagavad Gita, happiness and sadness, they're just a cycle in this world, right? Just as the seasons come and go, so happiness and sadness come and go. Okay, but his parents, they really wanted to make sure that he didn't see any suffering, that everything in his life was just happiness and pleasure and peace. They really tried to control his environment so that he wouldn't see any difficult situations. So they would remove anything that would be a cause of sadness, a cause of fear. They really tried to keep everything around him very peaceful, very happy, and very pleasant. Okay, so he grew up in a palace like that, within the palace, where there was no suffering. His parents really, really tried to make that happen for him because they wanted him to feel happy. They didn't want him to see suffering. But when he grew up, he started to wonder what life is like outside of his kingdom. because he grew up very, very sheltered in his kingdom. So he wanted to see what was outside. So when he was old enough, he went for a chariot ride around town. And that's when he began to see that outside of his, his little kingdom, the world was different. He all of a sudden he saw people on the road who were sick. He saw people who were passing away. He even saw some funeral processions. And so he saw many things which he had never seen before in his home, right? Because his parents were really trying to make sure that he only saw nice and happy things. So he was very, very bewildered and surprised by what he saw outside of the kingdom. And so he went home. He went back home. Okay, so this is the picture of him going around town, right? And here he's asking his charioteer. He's just so unsure. He doesn't understand what's happening, right? He sees this person here who doesn't really have anything to eat. They're starving. And he doesn't understand what's going on because he never saw anything like that, right? And over here in the back, there are some people carrying someone who had died to a funeral home. So he'd never seen anything like that either. He didn't know what was birth, what was death. He didn't know anything that would cause suffering. So he was asking his charioteer, what is all this? What are people doing here? Why are they behaving this way? He was very confused. So that was a very eye-opening experience for him. And he went back to his kingdom and he was very, very surprised. And eventually what he did was he decided to leave his kingdom. He left his family, he left his kingdom because he really wanted to figure this out. He wanted to find a way to end the suffering for everyone. So he finally ended up leaving and he became a monk. So he left his whole family, his whole kingdom, and he became a monk. And he went to meditate under a Bodhi tree. Okay, in those days, monks would live in very austere conditions. So he went and he sat under a Bodhi tree and he meditated and he was trying to find a way to end suffering for everyone. Also, what was happening at the time that he was that Buddha incarnated into this world was that many people were using Vedic teachings as a way to allow themselves to do a lot of animal slaughter. So there was a lot of animal slaughter going on in the name of the Vedas, but it wasn't correct. It wasn't correct. But people were using the instructions of the Vedas, and they were somehow, changing it up in ways that would allow them to do a lot of animal killing. So Buddha also wanted to stop that. So finally, under this Bodhi tree, he got enlightenment. So he basically he figured out what he was going to do about this situation of suffering and animal killing. And at that point, he became known as Buddha, the enlightened one. Okay? And then what he decided to do was he decided to preach ahimsa, which is nonviolence. Ahimsa means nonviolence. And he started to preach that to people in the world so that they would stop animal killing, because animal killing was such a big thing at that point. So many people began to follow his teachings. And then he was able to reduce animal killing to a large extent. Okay, so his main purpose here was to come and end animal killing and redirect people from following the Vedas in the wrong way. So he tricked them into not following the Vedas so that they would stop animal killing, because they were following the Vedas for the wrong reasons. So he said, okay, don't follow the Vedas right now, stop that, and just follow my philosophy, which is ahimsa, or nonviolence. So he got a lot of followers to follow him, and in that way he was able to reduce animal killing and suffering for the animals at that time. And let me see if there's another picture. No. Yeah. So this is him, Lord Buddha, as a monk. He remained a monk for the rest of his life, and he began to preach his philosophy of ahimsa, or nonviolence. Can you all say ahimsa? Ahimsa?
Ahimsa.
Yeah. So Ahimsa, yeah. So ahimsa was the philosophy that Lord Buddha preached
Ahimsa.
to trick people into developing compassion again and not killing animals for no reason, not causing suffering to other living entities for no reason. Okay? Let's go back to this. This is a verse about Lord Buddha. And it is a little long. You can also just hear me say it. And if you'd like to say it with me, you can say it with me and you can unmute as well. Okay? It goes like this. Nindasiya vide jatam sadaya hridaya darshita pashugatam Eshagadrita Buddha Sharira Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. All right, let's say the translation all together, okay? O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Buddha, all glories to you. O Buddha of compassionate heart, you decry the slaughtering of poor animals performed according to the rules of Vedic sacrifice. All right, so this is one little verse about Lord Buddha's life. He was very compassionate and he wanted to try and help others to develop that compassion. Okay, that was it for today, my friends. You can share with me something that you liked from today. Let me end my screen share here. Okay, now let's go around and hear what you all liked from today or something new you learned or heard about before we finish. I saw Ramaya's hand go up first, so you can share with us first.
I liked doing the
Oh no, I think we lost you. Oh, you got muted, Ramaya.
Oh.
There we go.
I liked doing the verses.
You like going through the verses? Okay, is there any particular verse that you really like?
I like the third one.
The third one. Okay, I don't remember which third one was. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're liking the verses. That's always nice to learn and memorize. Okay. I saw Nitya next. I'll get to all of you, don't worry. But yeah, Nitya, go ahead.
I like the story.
The story. Yeah. What did you like about the story?
I don't really know.
Have you heard about Lord Buddha before?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'm glad you like the story. Let's go to Dwani.
I learned that Buddha was born 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Not too long ago, right? 2,000 years is not very long. Okay, Ramaya's brother, what is your name again?
Ayushman.
Ayushman, okay.
I liked how Buddha in the story was trying to help not let people kill animals.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very compassionate. Okay, Kabir. You're muted, Kabir. There we go.
The story.
You like the story. Have you heard that story before about Lord Buddha?
No.
No, first time. Okay. Okay, Satya.
I like the story.
Okay. Have you heard about Lord Buddha before?
No.
No, okay. So some of you have heard about him for the first time. Okay. Ansh, did you have your hand raised? No? Okay. Do you want me to come back to you?
I can still share them. But after.
Okay, go ahead.
I liked the verse. It was new.
New verse. Okay. Have you heard that verse before?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's always new verses are always fun. Yeah. All right, Kavita.
I'm Rahanika. And I'm Aradhya.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
learned about Lord Buddha.
Okay. Have you heard about Lord Buddha before?
No.
No, okay. Another one, another first time.
Read. I like the story.
Okay, the story. What about the story did you like?
And the Lord Buddha. Like,
You liked the story about him, his life.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Rahanika and Aradia. Did I miss anyone? Have you all shared something? Dhruv, did I get you? Yeah? Okay. Okay, if there's anyone else that would like to share anything, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll finish for today. No? All right. Well, we'll finish then. Have a good rest of your Sunday and good week. And thank you for joining and participating. It's good to see you all.
Bye.
Bye. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.